What was that?
Oh, I think it's my stomach. I'm starving.
Dude, I told you to eat before we left. There ain't exactly a food court out here on Boon Island, Maine.
I'll be okay. Let's move up to the water's edge a bit and get closer to the lighthouse up there. Jeff, we really picked the strangest times to visit some of these places. December, on a desolate rock, more than 6 miles off the coast of York, Maine, isn't ideal. Is it?
No, not when it comes to weather, but we're out here right now because it's an anniversary of sorts.
Oh.
A gruesome anniversary that will forever haunt Boon Island.
All right, what are we looking for?
Ray, we're on the hunt for the Boon Island Cannibals. Hi, I'm Jeff Belanger, and welcome to episode 121 of the New England Legends podcast. If you give us about 10 minutes, we'll give you something strange to talk about today.
And I'm Ray Auger. Thanks for joining us on our mission to chronicle every single legend in New England. And a very special thanks to our Patreon patrons who are sponsoring this week's episode.
Thank you.
It's a grassroots show. We have no big sponsors or networks. It's just us working on the show each week.
So true.
And our patrons make it happen. If you'd like to become a big supporter of the movement, head on over to patreon.com/New England Legends. And for just $3 per month, you'll get early access to new episodes, plus bonus episodes no one else gets to hear.
We also appreciate when you post a review of our show on Apple Podcasts or iTunes, and when you tell a friend or two about us on social media.
We do.
We're building a network of legend seekers, and great things happen when you share these stories.
All right, Jeff, so we're looking for cannibals on Boon Island, Maine.
That's right.
The eat human cannibals?
Those are the ones.
All right, how did this happen on a remote rocky island like this? Why would anyone come here in the first place, really? The entire island is only 700 feet by 300 feet. Basically the size of 2 football fields. New England poet Celia Thaxter once described this place as, quote, the forlornest place that can be imagined.
Yeah, it's pretty bleak out here. So let's head back to December of 1710 and figure out what happened. Welcome aboard the British merchant ship Nottingham Galley, Ray.
Thank you.
Well, Captain John Dean is in command, and according to some of his 13 sailors on board, he's a brutal tyrant. Crewman Christopher Langman had this to say about his captain.
We were very incapable to sail because the captain, by his barbarous treatment of our men, had disabled several of them. And particularly 2 of our best sailors were so unmercifully beaten by him, they weren't able to work in a month.
Other crew members said Captain Dean would hoard food and water for himself.
It's creating a lot of tension on the ship, but then Langman adds another wrinkle to the story.
We perceived he would either lose the ship or betray her to the French, because she was insured for much above the value. The captain seemed to sail unnecessarily close to shore to tempt fate.
So you've got a highly insured ship carrying butter and cheese, a tyrant and reckless captain, and when you throw in an element New England is famous for...
Bad weather?
A nor'easter.
Ah.
You've got a recipe for disaster. On December 11th, the weather was more than the Nottingham Galley and her crew could take. Unable to find a port, and with almost no visibility in the storm, the ship wrecks on Boon Island. All 14 crew members make it onto the island alive, where they huddle up to wait out the storm.
Once Captain Dean and his crew are able to assess the situation, they see it's not good.
No.
The ship is completely lost except for some splintered wood and wreckage washed up on the shore of Boon Island. They have a small supply of the cheese they carried in their cargo, but not much for 14 men, and 2 of the men are on death's door. They're hypothermic and dying from exposure. There's no way for the survivors to build a fire. The situation is bleak.
When night falls on the second day, the men find some hope in the form of lights on the horizon. It's the lights of homes on the mainland, just 6 or 7 miles away. But with no fire to signal, the hope is a cruel tease. I mean, they might as well be on another planet.
By dawn, the crew of 14 is now down to 12. The ship's carpenter has died, as well as the ship's cook. The captain makes the difficult decision to push the cook's body into the surf in hopes that the body will wash up on the shore of the mainland and someone will come out to the island to investigate.
As more days go by, there's still no sign of any rescue, and the men are growing weak. The supply of cheese is now gone. The weather is still brutally cold, and with no food, any chance of getting off the island is starting to look pretty slim.
It's a bad scene out here. I mean, really bad.
Yeah, it is.
The 12 survivors huddle up and have the most difficult conversation of their lives. Captain Dean sums up the horror that will come next.
We are now reduced to the most deplorable and melancholy circumstances imaginable. No fire, and the weather extreme cold, our small stock of cheese spent, and nothing to support our feeble bodies. Faced with starvation, with no hope of relief, we reached the last extremity, to eat the dead for support. After discussing the lawfulness and sinfulness of our situation, we are obliged to submit to our craving appetites.
With the carpenter's body nearby, the men see no other choice than to eat their shipmate in order to survive.
This is a nightmare scenario for me. I get that the urge to survive is a powerful force, but to rip into the muscles and the meat of a guy you know
yeah.
and then eat him? I can't imagine what that must feel like. Knowing you survived another day because you ate part of the carpenter's body?
Their cannibalistic means of survival is also eating away at the sanity of the 12 survivors. As more days go by and facing the fact that their only other food supply, the corpse of the ship's carpenter, is also running out, two of the men gather what splintered wood they can and they build a makeshift raft. Facing frigid water temperatures in a raft that's anything but seaworthy, two of the crew begin to paddle the 7 miles toward shore. The 10 other survivors, including Captain Dean, can only look on as the men paddle out of sight. Their only hope is riding on the back of splintered wood and malnourished and exhausted men.
For the two men paddling, the journey is not going well. Icy seawater washes over their raft with every swell of the waves. They paddle with broken wood and with their hands. They know not only do their lives depend on making it to shore, but also the lives of their shipmates back on Boon Island. With each passing minute, the sailors grow more numb from the cold. Their hands are freezing up. They're getting sleepy and delirious. Hypothermia is setting in, and the mainland is still far in the distance. One man drops on the makeshift raft, and his body slips into the sea. There's no point in trying to save him because his crewmate is just as delirious. And soon, he too loses consciousness and slips into the ocean.
The 10 survivors of the Nottingham Galley on Boon Island don't know it yet, but their situation just got worse. When night falls with no sign of a ship coming to the rescue, the survivors assume the worst. The raft must have been lost. It's late December. They've been stranded here for 3 weeks, and now it appears as though they're going to die here.
The following morning, a frozen body washes up on the shore in York, Maine. Soon, some locals also see the broken pieces of a makeshift raft out on the surf. They quickly make the connection and set about rigging a boat. They push out to sea, out towards Boon Island.
When the men on Boon Island see a ship approaching, they muster all of their remaining strength to wave their hands and scream toward the boat. Near death themselves, the 10 survivors are helped onto the rescue boat that takes them the 7 miles back to York, Maine.
Once on shore, the 10 survivors are tended by the local doctor. But Captain John Dean is in better shape than his men, so he rests in the private home of an acquaintance in town. Captain Dean is quick to lay out a timeline of events, painting himself as a hero who, against all odds, saved most of the crew.
But that doesn't sit right with crewman Langman, as well as some of the other men. I mean, they're grateful to be alive, sure, and on the mend, but they view their captain as the man that got him into this problem. In Langman's eyes, the blood of those 4 men are on the hands of Captain Dean.
And the blood of at least one of them is in his stomach.
Oh, that's gross, but good point.
Yeah.
Langman had this to say about their Boon Island meal plan.
The captain's pretensions of being moved with horror at the thought of it are false, for there was no man that ate more of the corpse than himself.
And that brings us back to today.
Today you'll notice there's a lighthouse on the island.
Well, that makes sense. These are still some tough seas.
The first lighthouse was built from wood in 1799, but it lasted only 5 years. The highest point on this island is only 14 feet above sea level. Violent storms easily crest that and push boulders around here like billiard balls.
Stronger lighthouses were built in 1811, then another in 1831. But as the crew of the Nottingham Galley learned, Boon Island is no place for people. Lighthouse keepers came and went here because this place is a horrible rock that holds some of the most darkest memories.
Yeah.
And we should add that the Nottingham Galley was not the first, nor the last ship to wreck on this rock, but they were the only survivors to resort to cannibalism, and that haunts us.
Would you do it, Ray? I mean, if you thought it was your only way to survive?
If I had no other way to survive?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'd do anything to try to make it until rescue. What about you?
Yeah, I would. I imagine I'd go vegetarian after an ordeal like that, but the will to survive is powerful. Was that your stomach again?
Yeah, it was.
Why are you looking at me like that, Ray?
Because I'm really hungry, Jeff.
If you too are hungry for more great New England Legends content, that was a good segue, huh? Check out the television series on PBS and Amazon Prime. We have a brand new creepy Christmas episode of New England Legends available right this minute on Amazon Prime, so go check that out and put a little fear into your festive time of year.
Also, we love when you legendary listeners reach out to us through our super secret Facebook group or on our website at ournewenglandlegends.com, or if you call or text us on the Legend line. That's 617-444-9683. You can also leave our show closing on there for us.
We'd like to thank Jim Harold from the Paranormal Podcast and Michael Legge, both for lending their voice acting talents this week. And our theme music is by John Judd.
Hi, this is Eliza Daka from Bristol, Rhode Island. Until next time, remember, the bizarre is closer than you think.